Hey guys, Randy Potato here with a hero guide for the Runaway. We'll discuss their unique skills, hero paths, and trinkets, and the different builds you can use with this character, and in what types of parties and scenarios they will thrive. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe. I post new videos every day. The Runaway is the only dedicated burn dot specialist, and is extremely flexible, able to be slotted comfortably in any position 1 through 4. Beyond her dots, she has an array of support skills, including an outstanding heal. Let's start with a quick path overview. Arsonist gives her plus 33% burn chance, gives her burn attacks plus 10% crit, lowers her damage 25%, and gives her a 25% chance of applying a self-burn of 3 on turn start. Survivor buffs her heals by 50%, lowers her burn application chance by 20%, and gives her 2 dodge and a speed token at combat start. Orphan lowers her max HP by 20% and gives herself crit when she uses the Firestarter skill. This path gives different stat changes in every rank. If you're in rank 1, you do 40% more damage but apply 2 less burn, and in rank 2 you get 20% damage and 1 less burn. In rank 3 you do 20% less damage and apply 1 extra burn, and in the back rank you do 40% less damage but get 2 extra burn. Now on to skills. Searing Strike is a front 2 rank to front 2 rank melee burn, doing 3 to 6 damage, 4 to 7 on upgrade, and 2 burn, 3 on upgrade. On combo, the burn damage is doubled. This does respectable damage, and with combo generation and trinkets can issue insane dot output. The main problem is it's hurt by all of her paths for the most part. Arsonist lowers the damage while boosting the dot application chance, making this an inferior burn skill. Survivor nukes burn application, again hurting this skill. Orphan gives this skill more damage at the cost of burn. The problem is the base damage isn't high enough to make it a strong skill if you don't get the dot benefit as well. Ends up being pretty situational considering it's her base attack. Firefly is a back 2 to back 3 rank attack, doing 2 to 4 damage, upgrading to 3 to 4, along with 3 burn, 5 on upgrade. On combo, this will also apply a burn of 3 to an adjacent enemy. This is a much better skill for a variety of reasons. The damage is low enough that you don't care, so it strongly benefits from Arsonist without any real downside. Again, Survivor nerfs it, but with Orphan you get started with some insane dot scaling, and again the damage debuff is barely relevant. Only issue is you can't target rank 1, but a balanced team usually makes up for that. Smokescreen can be used from any rank to the front 3 ranks, and has a 1 turn cooldown. It applies a combo and blind, and Mastered gives you combo, 2 blind tokens, and a Vaughn token for one of the stronger upgrades in the game. This is not affected by any other paths. An auto-equip on basically every Runaway build because of its positional flexibility and utility. Run and Hide is usable from any position, has a 2 turn cooldown, and moves Runaway back 1 spot and gives her 2 stealth, and gives Runaway 3 regen when upgraded. Unmastered, this is almost always worthless as Runaway doesn't benefit from stealth, except as an emergency escape plan. The regen is quite useful in a number of scenarios though, so once you can spare the mastery and space on your bar, it becomes a pretty good equip. Hearthlight is a party AoE usable from any position, and has a 1 turn cooldown. It does no damage, and instead removes stealth from the enemy party. On upgrade, it also clears all ally blind tokens. While stealth removal is rarely useful in the current build of the game, this AoE is quite useful for stripping dodge tokens from a full enemy party, particularly useful in creature dens, in the sluice, and against cultists. The team blind clear on upgrade is very useful in a number of scenarios, especially when navigating the Shroud. It's not affected by any of her paths. I almost always find a way to put this on my bar, although it's easily swapped out in certain areas and against certain opponents. Ransack is a melee attack usable from any position against the front 3, does 3 to 6 damage, 4 to 8 on upgrade, moves you forward 1 and pulls the enemy 1 rank, 2 on upgrade. It applies a burn to a random adjacent enemy on combo. This is an interesting non-burn skill with decent damage and utility. It's not affected by Arsonist or Survivor directly, although Survivor uses this skill because burn is nerfed, but it is buffed quite strongly with front rank Orphan. The skill has a lot going for it, but in general I prefer scaling burn, especially since so many burn scaling trinkets exist. The pull is nice, but also requires you either immobilize, move her to rank 1 where she's somewhat awkward not being a tank, or need to build a mobile team. It's unlocked at her first hero shrine. Cauterize is a heal usable from the back 3 ranks on any hero. It requires a bleeding target and heals 25% of your max HP, 33% on upgrade, as well as removing the bleed. It has a use limit of 3. It gets an insane boost with Survivor, and isn't affected by our other paths. While the bleed requirement can seemingly make this inconsistent, there is a ton of bleed in this game, as well as self-bleed. You don't really want her as your only healer, but this is a top tier emergency ability. Pairing her with an occultist who bleeds heroes with weird reconstruction, that combo can make you forget PD ever existed. Not really, but it's quite powerful. This isn't always equipped on my bar unless for some reason you're running rank 1 Runaway. It's unlocked at Runaway's second hero shrine. Controlled Burn is a unique skill, usable from the front 3 ranks against any rank, that does not target a specific enemy but a position. It ignores stealth and applies a burn of 3, 4 on upgrade, on the enemy and a controlled burn token on the targeted rank. Notably, this applies even if you miss the attack. The controlled burn token will then attempt to apply a 2-point burn, 3 on upgrade, to that specific rank every turn. The burn itself can be resisted, unfortunately. This move has a cooldown of 3. This is very much a boss-killing scaling dot move, often used in conjunction with Backdraft for a massive nuke. It's quite difficult to get to work and hard to make it stronger than just straight up spamming Firefly at an enemy, especially considering the swath of burn dot scaling trinkets available. The initial burn is affected by all 3 of Runaway's paths, but not the debuff. It's unlocked at Runaway's third shrine. Dragonfly is a front rank to front rank AoE attack that deals 1 to 2 damage, 1 to 3 on upgrade, that delivers a 2-point burn, 4 on upgrade, as well as a chance at combo while moving Runaway back. It's nerfed by Survivor, buffed with application chance on Arsonist, while the dot gets nerfed and sometimes removed on Orphan. The direct damage on this attack is pathetic, so much so that it often can't check Death's Door even through block, but the dot can scale quite well, especially with the top tier upgrade and some of her trinkets. The combo chance is small but noticeable. I generally run my dot Runaway builds from the back rank, especially since this game has a glut of powerful front rank heroes, but this can work well, especially in a mobile team. It's unlocked at Runaway's fourth shrine. Firestarter is an any rank to any rank buff that has the target apply a 2-point, 3 on upgrade burn when they hit an enemy. It has a cooldown of 2 and a use limit of 2. On Orphan, the skill gives Runaway a crit token and it's unaffected by her other paths. This can scale quite well if applied on heroes with either riposte or AoE abilities. Notably, this buff also applies on combat items, so you can apply Firestarter to a hero, and all their enemy targeting throwables can now apply burn. This is especially powerful with AoE like Crow's Feet or Thunderclap Grenade. If you have any of the above components, which most teams have, this is a quite powerful ability that fits on most bars, especially considering how many dead abilities Runaway has. It's unlocked at Runaway's final shrine. Finally, we have Backdraft, one of the most fun garbage meme skills in the game. This is usable from the front 2 ranks to the back 3 ranks. It requires an enemy in front of the target to have burn, and then applies 50% of that total burn damage as direct damage to the target, 75% on upgrade. This is debuffed by Arsonist's damage debuff, and strengthened by Orphan's strength. It's not affected by Survivor. This is extremely hard to actually use, given you have to first accumulate a lot of burn on a single target, which Runaway struggles with in the front ranks. It is buffed by crit and strength, which makes Firestarter a pretty good combo with this if you're running Orphan. The problem is, in most of the serious fights, you're facing one serious enemy, and have no real way to apply burn to a target in front of them in order to enable this. It's so slow, it's basically always a boss killer, except you can't really kill many bosses with it. Fun meme, but I've never seen it implemented in a way where it's better than generic Runaway builds. It's unlocked at Runaway's final shrine. Now, on to trinkets. Carved Toy gives you a 33% chance of a crit token if stealthed, a 33% chance of applying combo on Hearthlight, an AoE ability, while you lose 4 speed against Gaunt. The Woodsman is actually Runaway's adopted dad in canon, which is why all her trinkets have the Gaunt debuffs. This is a pretty garbage trinket, mostly because all the positive effects are an RNG roll. If it were guaranteed, that would make a run and hide then crit combo pretty attractive, although still pretty slow, but with just a chance, it's a waste of time. The party combo on Hearthlight is actually pretty cool, so this trinket can be equipped over most vague and distant trash, but it's never what you want to carry to the final boss. Knitted Blanket gives you 100% burn resist, buffs your fire dots by 33%, while you lose 25% damage to Gaunt. This is an insane trinket that is just one of many dot scalers for burn in this game. Best to use on an Orphan or Arsonist Runaway so she can spam Firefly from the back. The immune to burn is also nice, although notably the Arsonist self-burn is not affected by this. It's an auto-equip for me, unless for some reason you're running a pure front rank damage Runaway. Pile of Ash, aka Pile of Trash, is a weird movement / backdraft Runaway trinket. This trinket gives her a 25% chance of gaining a dodge plus token while moving, and 50% crit on backdraft, along with 2 stress on combat start in any fight with Gaunt enemies. As movement, Runaway mostly sucks, and backdraft almost always sucks. This is basically never equipable. It's mostly positive for basic movement Runaway, although the Gaunt stress is surprisingly punishing given how many of them appear in most road battles. So like Carved Toy, I don't toss it right away, but I never want to bring it to the mountain outside of the backdraft meme build. Now, on to deeper discussion of Runaway's 3 paths and what skills and trinkets to use with them, and what team comps they work best with. Arsonist is a pure dot build who fits exclusively in the back row. Gaining both burn application and crit, while losing damage, the most productive way to run your Arsonist is to mindlessly spam Firefly. For her build, obviously Firefly is an always equip. Searing Strike, Ransack, and Backdraft are all terrible because of the damage nerf. Dragonfly is theoretically usable, but in general I prefer to just plant Runaway in the back and keep her there. This leaves 6 skills for your 4 remaining slots that are all usable in various scenarios. Smokescreen is an incredible utility ability that I run on almost all builds, although it really needs an upgrade to shine. Even unupgraded, I'll keep it on my bar, but it's mostly there to target rank 1 when all the other ranks are dead and you can't Firefly. But upgraded, it is your priority skill even over Firefly on most comps, debilitating the most dangerous enemies. Run and Hide is really only equipable when upgraded, and only in certain scenarios. It's good sustain, but you'd rather be doing other things with this build. Hearthlight is always nice to stash on your bar, quite strong against Sleuths, Cultists, and Creature Dens in stripping dodge tokens party-wide. On upgrade, it actually has real utility, removing blind tokens, making this a strong equip against Cultists, Creatures, the Shroud and Leviathan, and against the Act 2 and 3 bosses, who all consistently apply blind. Cauterize is another skill I consider a must-equip in most scenarios. Bleed is the most common enemy dot in Darkest Dungeon 2, so meeting the requirements for this skill is not difficult. As said before, Runaway pairs very well with the Occultist as a healer. Controlled Burn is mostly a boss killer, and in most cases, Firefly still scales better, especially with the abundance of dot scaling trinkets. You also need to be in rank 3 to utilize this skill, when Arsonist fits better in rank 4 in most comps when you consider how much this game lacks rank 4 heroes currently. Finally, we have Firestarter, which is more of a niche skill. It's most effective either with riposte or AoE nuking. The main issue I have with this skill as far as AoE goes is it's relatively slow and it spreads the damage as opposed to one targeted Firefly nuke. With riposte against a boss, it's a bit more effective in my opinion. So most common Arsonist bar is Firefly, Smokescreen, Hearthlight, Cauterize, and Firestarter, but Controlled Burn and Run and Hide can be utilized in certain boss scenarios. As far as trinkets, most of the burn scaling trinkets are found in the Sprawl. Thankfully, with Arsonist application buff, you can burn through most of the enemies in the Sprawl, but be careful with the Librarian. Your Runaway will be mostly useless in this fight. Of course, killing the Librarian is the easiest and most consistent way of obtaining your burn trinkets, so you need to weigh the risk and reward. Outside of these trinkets, which you should be dedicating the run to finding, you can make do with typical sustain trinkets. While Runaway is relatively safe in the back row, her self-burn application can make her dangerous to play if she takes some big hits. Simple healing trinkets are nice to equip early as well, as the damage debuff doesn't matter at all. In the same vein, picking Misstep from the Cultist to boost your HP can turn this mediocre HP hero into a tank. Being a back row rank 4 specialist, this hero fits with any team, Meshes well with the Occultist if you want to run a team without a PD, but still feel safe on the healing front. Ideally, you pair Arsonist with other heroes that specialize against the Librarian like Highwayman and Hellion, so you can safely acquire her most powerful trinkets. Survivor is an extremely boring path. Without burn application, you're left with a mediocre damage HP hero who gets her situational heal boosted along with some minor sustain. The biggest problem I have with this path is you still can't rely on her as your primary heal. You want to pair her with an Occultist, but unlike Arsonist, you need her to stay in the front ranks to utilize her non-dot skills. For your bar, you obviously need Cauterize. Smokescreen is a must with every Runaway, but especially to Survivor to make her semi-useful. As for damage, Searing Strike and Ransack basically do the same damage, and with Strike you can occasionally get a burn as well, even with the debuff. Ransack is nice for pull, but need a mobile team to accommodate. Since you're usually pairing her with an Occultist, Ransack is often not necessary. Strike only works from the front 2 ranks, so if you go that way, unfortunately, you'll need to replace one of many front rank DPS options with this garbage. Hearthlight still has incredible utility for the same reasons discussed before, so that usually goes on my bar since Survivor doesn't really do much. Run and Hide is a bit better here, since if you run Ransack, this can help you move back, although this path already comes with built-in sustain, so it's not often you actually need the Run and Hide plus heal. It's certainly a selfish move that doesn't often help your team. Firestarters is acceptable since it doesn't use your own burn application chance. In the same vein, controlled burn is usually usable against bosses. The initial burn still uses your application chance, but after that, controlled burn is on its own, so it's one of the few ways this hero can actually scale. As for trinkets, more sustain is always welcome. Healing trinkets obviously help further scale the healing boost, but losing what little damage you have is a pretty steep punishment. Some damage is nice, although direct damage trinkets are fairly hard to come by. As with Arsonist, she pairs best with Occultist, but since she needs to be in the front, you'll generally be running rank 4 Occultist. She can fit very well in a mobile party, pairing with heroes like Grave Robber, Highwayman, and Jester. The main problem is this path doesn't have a real focus, a real role. A powerhouse, but situational healer with some self-sustain, this is among the weakest and least interesting paths in the game. Orphan theoretically has 2 ways to play, but in practice she's purely a rank 4 super dot DPS. Running her in rank 2 to 3 is just inferior from a scaling standpoint. You could run a rank 1 Ransack build, but her base damage is not really strong enough to justify running her in rank 1 with lower HP ahead of a real damage build like Hellion or Leper. So we'll focus on what I feel is actually one of the strongest damage builds in the game, rank 4 Orphan. The skill set is the same as Arsonist, except Firestarter is a must-equip because of the guaranteed crit you gain with this ability. Firefly is still your bread and butter. On Orphan, I consider this a priority in 1 upgrade, giving you a base 7x3 dot that hits 3 different ranks. Similar with Arsonist, the Sprawl is where you'll find your best trinkets, but the scaling is steeper on Orphan, and thus the Sprawl is generally my priority over any other region. Although Tangle is nice to plant her in rank 4 with the Immobilize trophy. I will always try to force the Librarian with an Orphan on my team to get my burn trinkets, so make sure you build a solid Librarian squad around your Orphan. As said before, this plays almost exactly like Arsonist, except being in rank 4 is an even bigger priority, and thus controlled burn is entirely dead even against bosses, but otherwise skills, trinkets, and team comps are run exactly the same. Overall, Runaway is the most versatile and probably the best dot hero when running with Arsonist and Orphan as a dot DPS is only a small step behind the strongest DPS heroes in the game like Ravager Hellion. Fits incredible in any party since she is the rank 4 specialist. She also has a pair of incredible utility skills to go with her dots. Survivor is unfortunately boring and borderline unplayable. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. I post new videos every day.